Hey guys, and welcome back to Micro Solutions Manufacturer's Guide to CMMC 2.0. Today we're going to talk about Domain 11, Risk Assessments. There's a simple phrase that explains why risk assessments exist. You can't manage what you don't understand. Let's break that down a bit. Managing anything, cost, quality, safety, uptime, it all starts with awareness. You have to know what exists, what matters most, and what could reasonably go wrong. Risk assessments exist to give leadership that exact clarity. Not fear, not worst-case scenarios, just deep understanding. And manufacturing, this is already how you operate. You assess risk around equipment downtime. You think about supplier reliability. You plan around single points of failure on the floor. Cybersecurity risk is no different. If a system goes down, production's going to slow or stop. If a supplier is compromised, your data may be exposed too. If a decision is made without understanding risk, the impact shows up later, usually at the worst possible time. CMMC's risk assessment domain exists to make sure those risks are understood before decisions are made, not discovered afterwards. Let's clarify what this domain actually governs. Risk assessment in CMMC is about identifying, understanding, and prioritizing risks to your systems, data, and operations, specifically as they relate to protecting controlled unclassified information. It asks a simple question. Do you understand where your real risks are, and are your security decisions aligned to that understanding? Just as important as what the domain is what it is not. Risk assessment's not about predicting the future. It's not about eliminating all risk, and it's not about creating fear or anxiety. Every business operates with risk. The goal here is not perfection. It's informed decision making. CMMC is not asking you to secure everything equally. It's asking you to understand what matters most and why. When leadership looks at a risk assessment, there are 5 questions worth asking, not to grade yourself, but just to surface reality. First, do we actually know our key cybersecurity risks? Not in theory, but documented, visible, and agreed upon. Second, if we consider both likelihood and impact, some risks are unlikely but would be severe. Others are frequent but manageable. Understanding that difference matters. Third, are our risks prioritized realistically, or are they just listed in a long document with no clear order? Fourth, are our security decisions intentional responses to those risks, or did controls just accumulate over time without a clear reason? And fifth and finally, do we revisit risk as the business changes? New systems, new suppliers, new contracts, all of those shift risk. There are no right answers yet. These questions are about visibility, not judgment. From an assessment perspective, this domain is surprisingly grounded. Assessors are generally looking for evidence that risk assessment is real, documented, and used. That usually includes a defined risk assessment process, even if it's simple, evidence that risks have been identified and reviewed, and a clear connection between identified risks and the controls you've chosen to implement. In plain terms, that might look like a written summary of your top risks, notes showing when they were last reviewed, and documentation explaining why certain controls exist, not just that they exist. Assessors aren't looking for a perfect model. They're looking for alignment between awareness and action. In real organizations, we tend to see a few common patterns. Risk assessments that were done once and never revisited. Long lists of risks with no clear prioritization, and findings that never actually inform future decisions. And that's totally understandable. Manufacturing leaders are balancing production schedules, staffing, supply chains, and margins. Cyber risk often competes for attention with more visible pressures. We call this backburnering. These gaps aren't signs of neglect. They're signs of limited time and competing priorities. A strong risk assessment posture doesn't feel complicated. It feels clear. Leadership understands the top risks. Not all risks, just the ones that matter most. Those risks are prioritized based on business impact. Reviews happen on a regular cadence, not just during audits. Most importantly, there's confidence. Confidence in why certain controls exist. Confident in what's being deferred and why. Confidence that security decisions are intentional, not reactive. That's what maturity looks like in this domain. Practically speaking, this comes together across a few areas. From a procedure, people, and technology standpoint, let's break it down. From procedures, we need to define how often risk is assessed. We need to document how risks are identified and prioritized. And we need to capture decisions, not just findings. From a people standpoint, we need to involve IT, operations, and leadership. Make it clear who contributes, who reviews, and who decides. From a tech standpoint, we need to use whatever tools to help you document, track, and review risk. There's just nothing special required here. And from an evidence standpoint, we need to maintain a risk register, summaries, and review notes that show the process is alive. None of this needs to be complex. It just needs to be consistently done over time. Risk assessment is foundational because it informs every other CMMC domain. Access control, incident response, system security, all of these choices should trace back to risk. Our ebook walks through exactly how risk assessment connects to each domain, helping you see why the controls exist and how they all work together. It's not about adding more. It's about understanding what you already have and why. If you're ready to start an implementation and do your own risk assessment, please check out our implementation guide. Remember, risk assessment isn't about anxiety. It's about clarity. When leaders understand risk, decisions get calmer. Trade-offs become intentional, and security becomes part of how the business is run, not something that only shows up during our audits. Understanding risk doesn't create fear. It creates confidence, and that's exactly what this domain is designed to support. If you've made it this far, we want to thank you for making it to the end of Domain 11. We please ask that you check out our ebook and our implementation guide, and join us again for Domain 12. Thank you.